Please be advised that this video is for the sole purpose of entertainment. Any views are purely my own, are subjective, and may not necessarily be true. All photos have been found on the public domain, and I am using them under the fair use and fair dealing guidelines. I urge everybody to do their own research. Well, hello, it's Murky Meg here. Good morning. It's Saturday the 24th of August, and here in the UK, it's a bank holiday weekend. Woohoo! Hip hip hooray! Now, on a bank holiday weekend, we very rarely get nice weather, but the weather today is absolutely beautiful. Anyway, I took a day off yesterday to spend with the family. It's the last week of the summer holidays, so I thought I'd spend it with the kiddywinks. So I do apologise for not uploading a video, but you know what? Murky sometimes needs a break, so sorry about that. But I've got to thinking that it's funny at the moment that there's so many conflicting stories coming out of each camp. It's often hard to sift through the nonsense and find the real stories. There's media coverage this morning stating that the airline that was used by the Cambridges to fly up to Balmoral flew an empty aircraft to Norfolk so they could fly them up to Scotland. Now, after reading this coverage, it's very, very clear that this was put out by a certain member's camp, and it's backfired because, in fact, the airline, they were the ones that chose the Flybe plane and not a smaller unknown carrier so that they would get the publicity. It was completely out of the Cambridge's hands. So they had the privilege of flying two monarchs, future monarchs, up to Scotland. And boy, oh boy, did they get the publicity. I'm a firm believer that this was released by a certain camp to throw mud and see if it sticks. It's not going to work. It's tit for tat and it's shallow and silly. It's childish. Because let's face it, the Sussexes have had a pretty disastrous last couple of weeks PR-wise. It's been atrocious. But there's a certain story that's finding a little bit of traction, but nobody's actually picked up on it yet. A few YouTubers have actually commented on this, but I'd like to put my point across. It seems the smart work shoot wasn't all that it seems. Behind the smiles and the hugs lurked a difficult Duchess that we've seen before, to be quite honest. I mean, just look at Wimbledon. How difficult was she there? You just look at it, the glimpses are there all right. For someone who demands privacy, she sure does like to receive publicity, doesn't she? Whispers have emerged from the shoot that nobody was allowed to speak to Meghan unless they were instructed to do so, and strictly no eye contact. Can you imagine how difficult that must have felt? You were so excited to go to this wonderful shoot. You think that you were going to be part of this amazing charity event and this big launch, only to be found with a wall of contempt. And looking back at the footage again, it's very clear that she is the one who's controlling this whole thing. Power hungry, yet giggly and submissive. It's just silly. And that's the scary part about this. We've heard time and time again that she's Duchess difficult, yet her demeanour while in public, especially when there are cameras around, is to be the little giggling school girl, all coy and shy, when we all know underneath that character is a rabid shark. For those that have followed this circus for a while are well aware of this difficult label that she's had put on her. I mean, she's got an extremely high staff turnover. That in itself speaks volumes. To me, she seems like a perfectionist control freak, and numerous people have commented on various social media platforms that they see many traits of a narcissist. Biographer Robert Jobson alleged in his book Charles at 70 that Prince Harry and Duchess Meghan's wedding put a major strain on most of the royal staff, going beyond tiffs and tiaras. One insider said in the book that Harry got petulant with staff telling them what Meghan wants, Meghan gets. Well, we've all heard that. It's a very infamous saying nowadays. that can be labelled anywhere and it's still funny, to be perfectly honest. Another defended the Duchess, noting she's simply not afraid to express her opinions. While many find her a little pushy, there are many in the royal household that have quickly taken to her. I'd like these people to stand up, please. I'd like to have a little word with them. Oh, speaking of staff, the person on the plane that I assumed was Doria, in fact, it wasn't. It was the nanny. I feel so sorry for that poor nanny. Can you imagine the internal struggle going on in that woman's head? Veteran royal photographer Arthur Edwards described both Meghan and Harry as both projecting a poor attitude to their royal duties. He said recently Harry has sulked almost incessantly and no longer recognises the boy he once was. To me, she seems to be just playing the part as actors do, and this was evidently clear in the SmartWorks video. She should have known what this role was and the inevitable scrutiny she would receive. Kate's received the same too at the beginning. She's playing a role, and that's what the world sees. She looks fake. It's almost as if she skimmed the script and didn't go into detail and depth of what she wanted her character to be, or rather how she thinks the role of the Duchess should be. Being married into the British royal family, her character, her role is already written out. You cannot dispute that. The role is defined and set. You can make some adjustments, yes, but British people expect their beloved royals to behave in a certain way. She's bucking that trend and it's winding people up. I know it's silly, but we're very proud of our heritage. Our monarchy is all about traditions and following the custom. And you have to be loved and respected and have people on your side before you can try and break the wheel. Otherwise, you just look like a rebel that's making things difficult, and then the tabloids follow. Tabloids are very good at cold reading the feelings of the people. It's their business after all, and if they sense that there's turbulent times ahead, they will dig and dig and dig until there is nothing left to dig for. She seems to have come in, as her infamous quote reminds us, that she's hit the ground running, and her diva behaviour has really rubbed the public up completely the wrong way. She's being criticised for being snobby, elitist, and if the last few days are anything to go by, hopelessly out of touch and possesses no self-awareness at all. So do you think these stories of her being difficult, snobbish and demanding are true? Or are they just purely a tit for tat against the two houses? Personally, I'm leaning on the Occam's razor principle. Suppose there exists two explanations for an occurrence. Normally, the one that requires the least speculation is usually the correct one. In fact, there are so many more stories out there about how difficult she is than there are ones of how lovely she is. And those ones are from friends. So you can't really rely on those examples because they're consciously biased. See what I did there? Say you were caught up in a media storm. Dozens of negative stories are circulating around about how hypocritical you are by blowing a hole in the Earth's ozone layer that would normally take an average person a whole year to get through. What would your next plan be? What would you do next? Personally, I'd lie low, let the heat die down, and basically stay stum about it. Oh no, not our Megsy. What does she do? She posts an unoriginal idea for kind cupcakes on her Instagram. There's no hiding, is there? She's right in our faces. What bothers me the most is that she's already done this idea with the infamous Banana Gate. Seriously, did she not learn from that fallout? It was a disaster. So is she just thinking that it didn't really go down too well, so perhaps I'll just rehash it and do it again in a completely different style? They won't notice. But this whole idea of writing things on bananas and cupcakes, it's very immature and childlike, really. She's a woman knocking on 40, yet she should know better. It doesn't solve the world's problems to put a motto and a quote on a banana or a cupcake, does it? It's not going to be saved by a bloody fairy cake. What makes me laugh, though, is that her Instagram began to get flooded with not-so-gushing comments, which led to the post's comments being completely disabled for around about 14 hours. Whose idea was it to take away the ability to comment? Do you think it was Meg's herself, her team, or do you think it might have been the bakery, because they were linked with that during the post? Their hashtag and their little link @ symbol was on that, so they will be getting the flack too. And I feel so sorry for them to be associated with this kind of heat. Don't get me wrong, I don't begrudge her controlling the account, but one must learn the will of the people and take guidance from the words they speak. And by turning off the comments, you will effectively shut the nation up. And people don't like that. I wonder if she will ever be able to shake this difficult and demanding diva label that's been placed on her. She seems not to be able to listen to the optics of the population. And news hit this morning that she's playing the victim yet again by announcing that her and Harry will be making a pilgrimage to Diana's resting place within the Althorpe estate. Oh, please, come on, this is just silly. Do it privately. We don't need to hear about it. You can do that without people knowing about it. It's her final resting place. It should be done in private. This is just showcasing the fact that Meghan doesn't listen to her PR experts. If it was truly an emotional pilgrimage, we'd never know anything about it. Playing the Diana card won't help rehabilitate you, Meghan. It just makes your virtue signalling look rather creepy and desperate. A little tip about visiting relatives, Meghan. We might be more impressed if you visited your father while you still can. Do you think she deserves this Duchess difficult label, or do you think she's just a victim of the media onslaught? Love to know your comments as always. Thank you very much for watching. If you've liked this video, hit the like button. Please subscribe if you haven't already and hit that notification bell. Thank you all for your continuing support. It really does warm my heart. And once again, thank you very much for watching. I will see you very soon.